So you basically started Stark, or created this concept to fix your own problems because you experienced health issues that you couldn't resolve through any one practitioner. So tell me a little bit about what some of the health issues you were experiencing personally.
Well, I'll just go from the top of my head down to my ankles. How's that? So I don't forget anything. Well, well, first of all, I had serious neck issues, and I think that came from some of my years as an athlete when I was younger. But I also had chronic migraines, maybe a migraine twice a month, headaches, like pretty bad headaches, 3 to 5 times a week. It was a very common experience. So common that that eventually I started taking Advil every night before I went to bed, like a vitamin A, and developed an actual allergy to Advil as a result. My left eyeball would swell up, and it almost looked like there was a blister on my eyeball. It was the most bizarre thing. So I just stopped taking Advil, and then I moved to Tylenol and Excedrin, all in an effort to keep a lid on these headaches that were sort of debilitating. I also developed shoulder issues, which is the reason Stark exists if you go way back into our history, because of people that I was introduced to fix that. I have wrist issues. I had a serious low back injury in college that's kind of plagued me ever since, although not now because we fixed it. I have ankle issues, and I had a cluster of grand mal seizures when I was in my early 30s, which is pretty scary. And could have been fixed with very basic things but instead was put on pharmaceuticals that were the purpose of which are to actually slow down your brain. How sucky that was. For 2 years I was on this medication. Felt like being on, what's the medication, allergy medication, or cold meds. That's kind of what it felt like. It's like fuzzy, hazy, exhausted. For 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't think I've forgotten anything. Yeah. That's pretty much me, my past.
So you went from you're a kid, you're young and healthy, to that. Unhealthy, lots of problems, dad bod, to now fast forward at age 50 where you're essentially from a physiology standpoint young and healthy again. What's that like?
Sort of. Well, I went from kid, like 8, to unhealthy at 12. That's when I first started getting headaches. So 30 years of headaches like that. And then all the joint problems that came with getting older and stress and stuff like that were just kind of added to it. But the headache was like the first thing. We started Stark when I was 42. And what it was like is probably something like a caterpillar feels as he or she exits. Is there a sex to a caterpillar? I don't even know. Exits the thing, the cocoon, and all of a sudden looks at the wings and they're like, I am beautiful. That's actually kind of how it feels for the first time in my life, which is really a bizarre thing as an adult. Like I actually didn't feel attractive, didn't feel strong, felt like I was aging. The first time aging actually hit me was when I was in my early 30s, and I picked Jack up out of the crib. He's 18 now, and held him next to the crib, and he was straddling my belly. And I recognized the fact that, well, I'm getting older. This is just part of it. And I was 32. Kind of sad.
What all has gone into accomplishing such a massive transformation?
Well, I think that there's no single large, like one thing that turned it all around. There were rather a confluence of little tiny things, but the early changes were related to getting out of pain, and so when my nutrition plan went from total like lack of nutrition, which was a lot of our audience can probably relate to this. When you're younger, you eat a pizza on Friday night and you work it off on Saturday morning in the gym, and then you're back to normal. That was my nutrition plan, but I was 41 and I was still doing those types of things, and you just don't recover like you used to. So changing getting actually on a nutrition plan that was focused on nothing other than just eating very cleanly and getting enough protein. Those were actually I don't think we even paid attention to quantity of protein at that point. But what that did was drop my systemic inflammation and my joint pain was minimized, and my headaches went away because I actually took out a lot of the inflammatory foods that I was eating, the big one being gluten, and secondarily it was dairy. So when I took those things out, all of a sudden I felt better. And then you add to that intelligent training, you add to that certain supplements like probiotics, digestive enzymes, and fish oil. And all of a sudden I started feeling like the contrast between what I was before and at that point was like superhero status. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Because it happened fairly quickly. It happened over the course of maybe about a year. And then just adding that, again, sophisticated training for a couple more years. And there's a drastic change between old dad bod Todd, younger old dad bod Todd.
Old dad bod Todd.
To mid-40s Todd, with just what a doctor would tell you, which is, eat well and exercise. Those were the main solutions. But those can, of course, be carved up 1,000 different ways.
But when you talk about going from unhealthy to moderately healthy, that's one thing. But essentially, you eventually make this transition from moderately healthy to the upper echelon of health and fitness, which is what you experience now. So what were the things that really put you into the 95 and 99% of health for people your age?
Well, as Stark evolved, we added doctors, and with doctors came an amazing tool called labs. And so we used this great tool, this amazing diagnostic tool, by looking at our blood work. And that gave our doctor tremendous insight into what I needed. So instead of taking a multivitamin, a very high quality multivitamin that I felt made a difference, now we recognize that I have a specific type of vitamin B that I'm missing, and my vitamin D level specifically needs to be brought up by 25%. And so by suddenly focusing on these micro changes with micronutrients, my health took another major step up. In particular, when you're dieting to lose weight, you're in a caloric restriction. Because you're not taking the calories that you need to survive you're guaranteed to be missing certain micronutrients, and so you don't perform at the same level, and you can't withstand the stress associated with losing weight and losing fat. Plugging those holes with the right micronutrients made a massive difference, and so I started getting regular IV therapy. I do that once a week. That played a huge role. We started getting more sophisticated in our training from a mobility standpoint. That allows me to continue to train fairly hard and get the results thereof, rather than the typical older guy thing, which is, I can't do that exercise, can't do this one, can't do these 16 other ones that over the years you just kind of take off your list. That doesn't happen with me. And a lot of that has to do with just a tremendous amount of variety surrounding the way we write our programs. I think that's about it. Lastly, about a year and a half ago, as a result of, lifestyle. We haven't talked about lifestyle stuff. Oh my gosh, this is the most exciting thing.
The big one.
Boom, yeah. I started meditating 4 years ago, and I do that, truthfully, when I look at the stats, 4 days a week. On average, or what I feel I do is six days a week, but that's the way stats tend to work. My sleep hygiene is also really tight, meaning I make sure that I stop looking at a screen 2 hours before I go to bed. My room temperature is 65 degrees, so it's cool. It's dark, it's quiet. I carve out 9 hours to be in bed. I may read for an hour, and then I get 8 hours of sleep. Not many people my age get an actual high quality 8 hours of sleep. It's difficult for me. Insomnia was another thing. I missed that in the list of problems that I have. But we manage that by using supplements. I only use them during the week, otherwise your liver adapts to them and they stop having the same impact. And so I go through this weekly cycle where Monday through Thursday I'm taking some pretty powerful sleep supplements they're all natural. It's not like an Ambien situation, and there's no addictive qualities to them. But the result is that I sleep really deeply during the most stressful time of the week, and then on the weekends where it's less difficult to get into a deep sleep, because I'm much more relaxed, I don't need them. So that's what that cycle has led to, also being able to improve my overall health and kind of take it to the next level. It also allowed me to take my sex hormones, which would otherwise be really, really poor because of the lifestyle I had and the stress under which I put my body starting in those early 30s should have been very, actually I'm sure though we don't have the results, they should have been, they're probably quite low by the time I was 41. Going through a lot of the stuff we did at Stark, including training, proper nutrition, and these lifestyle changes, meditation, sleeping really well, my sex hormones came back up to what I would consider to be about average high for someone in their mid-40s, total testosterone of about 600. That worked for quite a long time until I was 49, and then we started to see a market decline down to the high 200s, and I would really feel it. And that's the first time, other than in my early 30s, that I felt really old. And the result was joint pain, muscle soreness for days at a time, and fatigue. My rosy outlook was a little bit dimmed. And so I went on hormone replacement therapy after attempting to reverse it naturally over the course of about a year with some additional tactics and herbs and things like that, none of which really worked very well. And that was after I went on replaced my hormones and got back up to the optimal level. That was another massive leap up in terms of experience in having a very, very healthy body.